Welcome to Take of the Week, Square Take's official YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Here we're going to tell you about everything that's happening in Africa and indeed the world around. But not just that, we're also going to tell you how to feel about it, which I think is the most exciting part. So stay tuned. Good. Settle in. It's a good Wednesday. I think it's one of the better Wednesdays I've had in a while, and it's not necessarily because there's anything special about today compared to the other Wednesdays. It's just because I had a great weekend. Now, I'll leave that up to you to guess why, but I think that I'm a huge fan of justice. I love it when justice is served. Justice was served. Justice prevailed. And I think the world is a better place now that justice has prevailed. I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but it's a good day to be where I am as a person and to have witnessed what I witnessed. But that notwithstanding, thank you very much for obviously tuning in, making us a part of your day. Let's call it what it is. Over the weekend, or I think sometime on Friday, former Senegalese President Macky Sall paid a visit. It was a very short visit. Now, what the numbers had, the numbers that I hear are that he spent only 3 hours in the country. So he came in by 3 p.m., had a brief meeting. We don't know whether he had that meeting in the airport with current President Diomaye Faye. And then he left the country. I understand that he's in Morocco now. And the reason why he had that meeting in the first place, or he bothered to come back into the country in the first place, is because he is actually gunning for the UN Secretary General seat. Now, remember that the UN obviously has a Secretary General seat that they review every, I believe this is 5 years. It's an appointment actually, but appointment elections is a very funny way. It's very confusing. It's not ballot. It's not ballot driven, if you ask me. But then the current UN Secretary General Guterres, his tenure is ending this year, December 31st. And but logically, there has to be a conversation about who's next in line. And Macky wants in. Now, here's where it gets a bit untidy. Macky, who is former president of Senegal, has not yet, and how it works is that the African Union should be able to say, this is our candidate, this is our guy. We think that we've scoured around, we've done our analysis, and we don't think there's anybody on the continent who's a better fit to rule or to oversee the activities of the United Nations in Africa's interest better than this guy. They had a meeting in February, all but I think about Burundi wanted that guy, or wanted Macky to go on and represent Africa, or to go on to be Africa's nominee for the job. Now, all the other countries, I think, and really most, because I think over time the number increased, the number of countries that did cast a vote for Macky Sall increased. That came up to 20, I believe. So that means 20 countries voted to have Sall go on to represent Africa as the candidate, as a consensus candidate for the Secretary General job, while 35 refrained. Now, what's very funny is that within or amongst the 35, Senegal, the guy's own country, was one of them, the 35 that didn't want him to go on, or the 35 that didn't approve for him to be the consensus candidate. And that's what he came to fix. And that's what he came on Friday to deal with, to say, look, guys, we absolutely need, or I absolutely need your support to go on with this, which kind of makes sense. And now he got the support, he got the endorsement eventually. How he did it, what he had to let go of, what negotiations had to happen for him to eventually get that endorsement, we don't know, we've not been told. But it is the case that he currently has been endorsed by Senegal. Now, I think some things are clear here. And the first thing is, it actually pays to have a good reputation. It does pay. The biggest challenge with his candidacy, and it is somewhat illegitimate, is that he doesn't have the reputation to go with it. Never mind the fact that the African Union is not backing him. For the most part, the African Union not backing him as a consensus candidate isn't what determines his ability to make it to the job or not. What actually does determine his ability to make it to the job is his antecedent, is how he's been perceived to conduct business, really at the political, business, diplomatic level in the past. And to say the truth, or to be honest, there's been some flaws here and there. There's been holes. There's been integrity-sized holes in his approach to government. And I think the biggest one of them that most people should be aware of is the fact that currently Senegal is in debt. Senegal needs money. And it's not because the current administration went on some spending spree and then they said to themselves, well, we just, because they took over in 2024, so that's barely 2 years now. It's not because they were extravagant or they got themselves new Rolls Royces, although that will not be out of context if you're talking about an African country. It's because this guy, Macky Sall, refused to be transparent about his own administration's dealings. And so his administration spent money, borrowed money, but never recorded those monies as spent. And I think here's one thing that's obviously objectively worse than borrowing too much money, because if you're an African, you're probably used to, certainly as a Nigerian, I know that it's probably certainly very frustrating for me every now and then to hear that the Nigerian government borrowed 100 million, 100 billion, 10 billion. I mean, the numbers are just completely superfluous. They're farcical at some point. It's as though the more you borrow, the less you see in terms of development. It doesn't translate at all. And that's what the Senegalese are saying. It never translated. They never saw the quality of life improve. They never saw the indication in the indices that come along with, an improvement in the educational standards, show up. They never showed up. They never saw the economy pick back up. It was that bad. They unanimously engaged or some sort of commenced strikes. And I think this is 2023 to get the guy out when he suggested that perhaps he would want to run for a third tenure. And then obviously after the pressure mounted to a certain extent, he decided to back off and then let, some new folks come around and give it a try. But the point is that he doesn't really he has the integrity levels of a child that you just caught hand in pot, taking stuff out of the pot. That's how much make-believe you have, or he's trying to make you, or he's trying to have, that's how much make-believe, that's how much trust you can possibly have in him. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And we've seen this happen before. In 2016, the former vice president of Kenya, late Raila Odinga, he wanted to contest for the position as well. He never got it. In fact, Raila Odinga at the time had been known as a serial contestant for the position of president. I can't remember the year when he was vice president, but we now know that he contested up until his death in 2025. He contested 5 times for the role of president, and at no point in time did he win. And if you ask the average Kenyan, okay, you guys are complaining about Ruto oppresses you guys. Ruto appears to have a propensity to like luxury travel or unnecessary travel or both. He's such a poster boy. He loves to show up for the camera but doesn't show up for his people. If you ask the average Kenyan, pick between this guy and Raila Odinga, they most likely would still go for Ruto, because none of them ever gave Raila Odinga the chance. Actually, Raila Odinga was still touted to contest for the position of UN Secretary General by the end of this year, had it not been for his untimely demise. But he didn't have what it takes to rally around the number of people that were required to, make his bid a credible one. And that's a very similar instance to what's going on now. If you compare the other guys from Africa who have been UN Secretary General, we're looking at Kofi Annan, we're looking at this guy from Egypt, Boutros. They all had better. They were all consensus candidates by the African Union. They all did better. Now, obviously, Boutros had his own. I think Boutros' tenure ended in 1996, but they all technically had cleaner backgrounds getting into the job. Macky is one of none that absolutely has nothing close to a clean background walking into, or who wants to walk into the job. I mean, it says a lot if you, as a former president, one, don't live in your country of origin anymore, two, cannot stay in your country anymore for a period of time that's longer than 3 hours, three, cannot actually get your people, the people that you stayed and you lived with and you presided over and you ruled over and you watched over for 8 years, 10, I think it's 2012 to 2024, for 12 years now, or 2012 to 2023, something along the lines of that, 2024. So more than 10 years. If I'm living with you for more than 10 years and I still can't get you to like me enough to actually say, yeah, this guy is not a jerk, then there's every chance that I'm a jerk. And that's kind of the problem here. That's why Macky Sall will, I mean, if you look at the panel of people he's going up against, there is Michelle Bachelet. She's from Chile. No offense, but if you're looking at the Security Council, of which the UN is a part of, the US is a part of, rather, the US actually does have quite decent relations with Chile compared to Senegal. And if any of the members of the 5 members of the UN Security Council were to veto against the candidate, that candidate's out. That candidate's no longer in the running. There's Michelle, who has a great reputation. She's been president of Chile twice. She's worked for the UN Human Rights Commission. She's done a lot of work, especially in the light of all the stuff that's going on in Ukraine. She definitely looks like the better, and all the DEI stuff that gets into this. She's a lady, and so she definitely has a lot more going for her than Macky. And this is not to say that Macky is out of it, but if your people don't trust you enough to give you the job, why do you think absolute foreigners would care to not be fair to the fact that you don't have ground support, you don't have local support, and want to give you their support? Macky Sall is not particularly popular. You don't see him at events. I'd actually say that if Ruto gave it a shot, he'd probably have a better chance. You don't see him at events. You don't see him doing photo ops. You don't see him giving speeches at the UN. Yes, granted, he's been AU chairperson in the past, but that counts for absolutely nothing. I have never in my life expected that some Uber driver would actually contest for UN Secretary General. You have to have been in a position of influence prior to, your resume has to have some diplomacy in it, some relevant political position for you to be considered in the first place. Macky Sall has that, but the argument here is that he did such a piss-poor job while he had it. And this is in comparison to the other people who did better jobs, or who did a better job when they had their own political appointments. And, well, it's still open. It's still up for grabs. I believe the election itself is going to happen in September, or at least the announcement of the winner is going to happen in September. I'm not exactly sure when they're going to convene to decide on who gets to win. But when I look at the list, I look at Michelle Bachelet, I look at Rafael Grossi from Argentina, I look at Rebecca from Costa Rica, I look at Maria Espinosa from Ecuador, and I look at Caroline Burkett from Guyana. They have one thing in common. They actually got, and some have controversy, some are a little bit light CV, they got a bit of a light CV, some not so popular. But who is the judge of who's looking for popular? Nobody knew Antonio Guterres before he became UN Secretary General. Some I've never seen do any photo ops whatsoever. It's like they're shy, they're camera shy. but then you can make an argument that they're camera shy for you, but they're in the right rooms regardless. But the one thing that I can find across the board with all of them is that they all were able to secure the support of their local countries, of their local jurisdictions. Macky only did that after a 3-hour call or a 3-hour meeting, at the issue or at the end of which he had to leave. So currently he's not even in Senegal yet. So how do you make the case that he's the best candidate for the job? Haha, I know you're gonna like this one. South Africa is, I think that's now probably the easiest place to lose weight. Not because they're hosting some Mr. Universe competition, or, I mean, they're known for marathons. They've got the Cape Town Marathon going for them. But it's like, it's a fight. It's a giant tussle to see who can sell the most weight losing or the most drugs that cause you to lose weight. And it's a complete fan fest. I mean, without the food at the very least. You've got Novo, you've got Sun Pharma, you've got Reddy's, you've got Zydos, you've got all these guys itching for a share in the market to say, okay, you know what, guys, we really want you guys to lose weight. And I've never known South Africa as a place where weight was an issue. In fact, weight in the right places has always been something that South Africans were praised for. And so, obviously, they're not the most obese or they're not the most overweight population. But I think that this has a lot more to do with purchasing power. Let me explain. So, this week, there was an announcement. Novo says they're going to launch a cheaper version of their GLP-1 agonist medication. So technically the medication, the shot that helps you lose weight, keeps you full, keeps you from eating. And yeah, everybody was happy because it's going to be cheap. It's going to be, I mean, I don't know if it's cheaper than fasting, which anybody would recommend. But at the very least, it keeps you from adding weight, which is a good thing. Now, it's not just them who want in on that cake. There's all these other guys from India that are postulating and saying, we're going to apply for the right to sell our weight loss medications, and we're going to sell them probably cheaper than what Novo is going to sell it for. Novo is going to sell this copy for, and we're going to make money. And this, I think on one hand, I'd like to start from this. On one hand, I love the fact that everybody's struggling to bring innovation into the market or into Africa. It's a good thing. On the other hand, it kind of feels like they're trying to sell sparkling water to a mermaid. Now, should the mermaid be happy that there are bubbles in the water or that it feels a bit more premium? Yes. But the question is, can you afford it while you have something for free, while you're surrounded by water, while you literally swim in water? Should you pay for a bit more bubbles? I mean, just blow air into the water, you'll get the bubbles you need. And that's what's happening. These guys are saying, we want to sell these medications to you at a cheaper price. And now they're waking up to say, yes, we want to sell it to you cheaper. Yes, we want your patronage. But I think that more importantly, there is the overshadowing of African companies in the equation. No African company is pitching to be able to sell these medications. I'll tell you a very interesting fact. Of all the guys, and there have been 12 that have now submitted for the authorization or the licensing or the approval from the regulator in South Africa to be able to sell semaglutide or weight loss medications. There's no African company that submitted. It's all Indian. It's all Reddy's. I mean, I used to think that Dr. Reddy's rather They made talc powder. I only ever seen them on talc powder. I only ever seen that logo on talc powder. Maybe multivitamins. I never knew they even make anything close to a complicated or a drug as complicated as semaglutide. There's Zydos. I've heard of them once. These are people you hear about when you watch a documentary, or these are the companies you hear about when you watch a documentary about India. There's Alchem. My very first time of hearing about them. There's guys that otherwise have not invested in the growth of Africa that are pitching for a chance to make the African or the average African, I won't say man, because I don't know how many of the, I don't know how many men on these medications, but the average African slim. And I think that's where the disappointment comes, because I don't see any African company there. We are not pitching to develop our ability to serve our people better. We had the opportunity in the sense where these medications were registered in South Africa for at least 5 years now. There was all of the time to go in there, take the medication, break it down, because the reason, and by the way, the reason why this can happen is because the patent expired earlier this year. And so that means the South African patent for the medication. So that means it's a wide open door. It's a fan fest without the food for everybody to come and feast on nothing, right? And they had the opportunity to learn, to break down the molecule, or to break down the product and say, we're going to actually try to reverse engineer this, reconstruct this from the back, build it right back up, and then present a generic version of the medication when the time is there, or when the time is come. And the time has come, and there's nobody pitching. There's nobody who's postulating. There's nobody who's even remotely serious. And we have big guys in South Africa. We have Aspen, we have Biovac, all of whom, by the way, it's very important to note, produce injections. They produce shots. Aspen got the nod. I think this was from, and I'm not exactly sure, but this was this is COVID. They got the nod to produce the COVID injections on behalf of one of the guys who were making them. So I'm not sure whether this is BioNTech who gave them the license now, or Pfizer, or even J&J, but I know Biovac produced COVID injections. Who's making COVID? Who has COVID? Who even know? As of 2021, most people around Africa, they had stopped using, face masks. As of 2021, more than half of Africans didn't even know whether they had to get a shot, or an anti-COVID shot or not. And yet I saw these companies day in, day out, week in, week out, pitch, publish, scrabble, struggle to get a chance to, and I think the term is this very nice term, they call it tech transfer, or technology transfer. So basically, they'll approach the maker of the medication, someone like Pfizer, and say, well, guys, give us the technology, let us handle the technology, we'll pay you royalties. So if we sell one shot for $1, we could pay you 50 cents. And you don't have to do anything, just tell us how to do it. We'll do all of the work, do all of the running around, do all of the marketing, and then we'll give you your own share, which sounds like a great deal. But you know what's a bigger deal, or what's a better deal, is making the medication yourself. And it's not hard. And I think that if it is the case that we're struggling to understand how these things work, why not go to India? We already go to India for just about everything health related. Everybody who has a little change in their pocket, who knows their way to a passport office, and who has ever boarded a flight for anything other than a sponsored trip before, knows that if they want the best of healthcare at the cheapest price, they should go to India. And so what's so wrong in going to understudy those guys? The Zydoses, the Dr. Reddy's, the Alchems of the world, and learning how to make these medications. I wouldn't know if they're going to teach you for free. I don't know if it's going to be a situation where they're going to do the tech transfer themselves. But I know for sure that it's so much better than clamoring for bits and pieces where there is not a bucket that's big enough. Look at the weight industry. Every girl or every lady that's 15 and above, even girls who haven't hit puberty yet, are trying to lose weight. I don't know what for. Because if you lose weight, or if you're not big enough or heavy enough, you can't even hit puberty in the first place. Everybody wants to have a V-shape, an inverse V-shape. Everybody wants to have the tight waist, the summer body in a country where it probably rains in June. And so that's a huge market. And if that's not enough to make it clear that that's an opportunity to seize, then what will be? I've said it time without number. You go where the market goes. You follow the market where it goes. And the market now, at the very least, there's all these guys, and they're not limiting themselves to shots. They're pushing for pills. I know that there's been a Wegovy pill that was approved last year by the FDA. They're probably going to bring it up now. And what's even more frustrating is that there's guys, local guys in South Africa, pharmacies, that compound these medications, and they make, I mean, maybe the term here would be individualized dose preparations for a specific person. So for example, I weigh a lot, 130 plus kg. The average dose that an 80 kg person consumes is probably not what would be okay for me. And so if I'm trying to play around with the dosing, I need some compounding. And that's happening at a large scale. It's in fact happening at such large scale that you find Novo shooting out lawsuits, like they're trying to, push out air bubbles from the ceiling, shooting out lawsuits in every direction. All because they're trying to keep revenue, and I get it. That's how it works. But what I don't get is when there's a distinct market opportunity for African companies to actually jump, seize the day, and seize that waste, and they do nothing about it. They just keep silent, and then they're doing things that nobody understands. COVID in 2026, what is that even? Yellow fever in 2026, what is that even? Malaria, how many of them make the malaria vaccine? Because there's been a malaria vaccine that's been approved, I don't know, 2024, 2025, at least here in Nigeria. I know it's available, not very available, but certainly you can get it for your kid. I don't hear any of them make it. And so it's like we kind of major in the minor. That's what we do. And we let other people major in the majors. And that's unfortunate. And if you ask me, it's such a huge opportunity that a lot more countries will want to take the opportunity, will want to seize the day and make sure that they get those guys. And the Indian guys, they don't care. It doesn't matter to them whether you're regulated, you're not regulated. They see a market that penetrate, they hit hard. And that's maybe not the best thing to do, but that's the best statement of intent to make. And that's a money-making opportunity, a money-making venture that could, should, can still be capitalized on. But we need to see activity, and we're not seeing that activity yet.